Today I'll be discussing with you on how you can factorize or solve a polynomial expression with degree 2. That's what you call simultaneous equation. In case you are new to this channel, please hit the subscription button, turn on your notification bell so that once new videos are made, you'll be forced to be notified. Again, like this video and share it if you find value. My name is Dr. Godwin Obono. The simultaneous equation is an equation with degree 2. What that means is that it's an equation that has the highest power of the variable to be 2. So if you have an expression with the highest power of the variable to be 3, that expression cannot be said to be a quadratic equation. For you to call an equation a quadratic function, it means that the power of the variable must be what? The highest power of the variable must be what? 2. And if you don't call it a quadratic equation, you can say that is an expression with degree 2. Now before us we have an expression that says x squared plus x minus 2, and this is equal to what? 0. And so we say this expression is a quadratic function because if you look at the first term has power 2, the second term has power 1, and the third term has power 0. It is power 0 because this can be rewritten as x squared plus x minus 2x raised to power 0. Because x raised to power 0 is 1, such that 1 times 2 will remain minus 2. Therefore, if you look at the power of this x is 2, if you look at the power of this x is 1, the power of this x is what? 0. Therefore, the highest power is said to be what? 2. And because the highest power is 2, you now say that that is a polynomial with degree what? 2. And if it's a polynomial with degree 2, it therefore means that is a simultaneous equation. What are the various ways you can solve it? What are the various ways you can find the root of that expression? And that's what we sometimes call zeros of what? The quadratic equation. What are the various ways you can have that done? The first is you can either use the method of what? Factorization. You either factorize it or you use what we call the formula method. In other words, we have 3 methods. You can use the factorization method. We also have what we call the formula method or completing the square. Now, I will take first the factorization method. Now, if we are to factorize this expression, there are 2 ways you can have that done. You can apply the remainders theorem, or you can use the other method involves applying 2 sets of rules. But let me apply the remainders theorem first. If we want to factorize this expression, what that means is you'll be looking for the root of this equation, or what you may call the zeros of this equation. And if you get those numbers must be numbers such that when you substitute here, they will give you what? 0. Remember, this expression is equal to what? Is equal to 0. It means that whatever that will be called root of this equation must be a number that if substituted here, they will have what? 0. For instance, if we say let x be equal to 1, remember the question is factorizes. If we say let x be equal to 1, we are assuming numbers now. So we want to find, remember that this is the same thing, I can say this is the same thing as f of x. In other words, I have defined this expression to be what? F of x, because I know that the variable that is contained in this expression or in this function is x. That's why I say f of x. If this was y, if this letters were letter y, I would have said f of y. Now, I want to assume numbers now, because we say root of an equation are the zeros of an equation, and this refers to numbers that if they are used to substitute an equation, the answer will become what? 0. Now let's assume x is equal to 1. If x is equal to 1, we find a remainder. Now remainder will be equal to f of 1. If we substitute here, this will give us 1 raised to power 2, because wherever we have x, we have to substitute 1 with 1. So this will become 1 squared plus 1 minus 2. Of course, this will give us what? 2. Of course, 1 raised to power 2 is 1. 1 plus 1, that will be what? 2. 2 minus 2, that will give us what? 0. You can now see that when x is equal to 1, what do we have as the remainder? The remainder is 0. Remember, we apply remainders theory. That's why we are approaching it this way. We are not applying the other rule. There is another method you can factorize this. Okay. Now, I told you can either use the method of factorization completing the square or formula method. Now, within the factorization method, you can approach it by the method of by applying remainders theory, and that's exactly what I'm trying to do. And if you want to apply remainders theory, all you need to do, assume numbers for x for which if you substitute those numbers here, the answer will become what? 0. We took the first number. Let x be equal to 1. We said so. And so when we substitute x, in place of x, we had what? At the end, we had 0. This 0 therefore becomes what? The remainder. Therefore, if the remainder is 0, it means that that same value, this one that you have seen, becomes what? The root of that equation. Therefore means that if r is 0, which of course r refers to what? The remainder. It therefore means that s equal to 1 becomes what? The root of what? The equation. Remember, they didn't ask for the root of the equation. They say factorize. When they say factorize, what they are asking for are what? The factors. They want you to look for the factors. What means that? What are those binomials? What are those expressions that when you use them to divide this, you will have the remainder to be 0. Now, how do we get them? Now, since we have substituted x equal to 1 and we got what? 0, we now say that therefore x equal to 1 is a root. Now, all you need to do is transfer 1 to the left hand side. When you do so, this becomes what? X minus 1. This x minus 1 therefore becomes what? The first factor. That's the first factor. Now, what if we say let x be equal to, the first was x equal to 1. What if we say let x be equal to minus 1? We again substitute. That will become remainder is equal to f of minus 1. What that means is wherever we have x, we substitute what? The value of what? Minus 1. Here now becomes what? Minus 1 raised to power 2. Remember that the expression is x squared. Now plus minus 1 minus 2. This of course will give us minus 1 raised to power 2. That of course is 1. That will be 1. This times this will be what? Minus 1, then minus 2. You notice that the answer in this case will be minus 2. The answer is minus 2. Our remainder is minus 2. And because the remainder is minus 2, it therefore means that x equal to minus 1 is not a root. It's not a root. Please take note. It means that x equal to minus 1. How do we go? Remember, we got r equal to minus 2. And how do we got r equal to minus 2? We said let x be equal to minus 1, and we substituted what in place of x, we substituted what? Minus 1. At the end, we got what? R equal to minus 2. And because this remainder is not 0, it therefore means that that x value, which was minus 1, can never be said to be what? A root. And if it is not a root, what do? You transfer this. By the time you transfer minus 1 to the left hand side, it becomes what? X plus 1. It becomes x plus 1. It also tells us that x plus 1 is not a factor. It shows that x plus 1 is not a factor. The reason is that x equal to minus 1 never gave us 0, and because x equal to minus 1 didn't give us 0 as a remainder, it therefore means that x minus 1 is not a root, or is not a 0 of that expression. And if it's not a 0 of that expression, by the time you move or transfer minus 1 to the left hand side, you're going to have x plus 1. Therefore, this x plus 1 can never be said to be what? A factor of that expression. Remember, the equation is factorized. The factorized means we are asked to look for what? The factors. Therefore, this can never be what? Our answer. The first answer we've gotten is this one. We need to look for another answer. Remember, because this power is 2, it therefore means we expect 2 factors. We've gotten 1. This can never be one of the factors. So that's the case of what we've taken 1 plus 1. We have taken what? Plus minus 1. Let's also say, what if we say x equal to, let's assume x equal to 2. Let's assume x equal to 2. We again substitute. Let's see if we can have the value of what this turning towards 0. We will now say that the remainder is equal to f of 2. We'll substitute. This will give us 2 raised to power 2 plus 2 minus 2. Of course, this will be what? This will be 4 plus 2 equal minus 2. And of course, you know that this again will be what? 6 minus 2. 6 minus 2 will give us what? 4. You can now see that the remainder in this case is 4. And because this remainder is 4, it therefore means that x equal to minus 2 is not, x equal to 2 is not a factor. And if x equal to 2, so x equal to 2 is not the root. This is not the root. Therefore, if I transfer 2 to the left-hand side, become x minus 2. It also tells us that x minus 2 is not a factor. It's not a factor. Now, let's take, what if x, let's take x equal to minus 2. Remember, the first one was what? X equal to what? X, the first, we've taken x equal to 2. So now let's take x equal to minus 2. Let's substitute. In this case, that will give us f of minus 2. That will be equal to minus 2 raised to power 2 plus minus 2 minus 2. And this will give us 4. Of course, minus 2 raised to power 2 will be what? Minus 2 raised to power 2 will be 4. This time, this will be minus 2 here. And of course, this will become what? This, of course, minus this one will be 2. 2 minus 2, that will be 0. We're going to have what? 0. F of minus 2 will be 0. Therefore, we say that the remainder, which is equal to f of minus 2, in this case is what? 0. And because it is 0, it tells us that x equal to minus 2, this x equal to minus 2, this minus 2 is a root of that expression. And if it's a root of that expression, by the time you transfer minus 2 to the left-hand side, it becomes x plus 2. And therefore, this x plus 2 becomes what? A factor. You can see we have seen what? 2 factors that gave us a remainder of 0, 2 of them. The first one, we can therefore say, therefore, the factors in this case become the first one, which was what? X. The first one we got here was x minus 1, and then x plus 2. So the 2 factors are x minus 1 and x plus 2. These are the 2 factors. Now, I don't need to say let x equal to 3 again. Reason is that this has power 2. You expect 2 factors. So I've gotten those 2 factors, where we say x plus 2 and x minus 1. So there is no point for me to say let x be equal to 3 and then substitute, because apart from these 2, no other expression that can divide this without any remainder. No other number apart from x equal to minus 2 and x equal to 1. No other numbers can be substituted in this expression for us to have a remainder 0. No other number. So there is no point having to try other numbers. Please take note. So this is one way, and this is a very, very the best way. One for me, I feel sometimes this is every student must understand this method. The reason is that this is the only method that you can use to factorize an expression when the power is not 2, when the power is above 2. Please take note, when the power is above 2, this is the only method that can be applied if you must factorize that expression. I've done in my previous videos, I've factorized an expression with degree 4 and with degree 3, and I didn't use formula method. You can't apply formula method, neither can you apply completing the square method. The only method you can apply is this. So, which is why I want you to all have understanding of this method. Now, another way you can approach this is this. Remember, we had what? F of x equal to x squared plus x minus 2. Sometimes you may be told, you might be given a rule, and that rule says you should look for 2 numbers such that when those 2 numbers are added together, you will have what? First, what you are to do is to say, of course, this is equal to 0. The first thing you're supposed to do, I'm trying to teach you another method of factorizing a quadratic function. Now, first you need to use the coefficient of the first term. This x squared is the first term. What is its coefficient? It is 1. That's the first thing. Now, 1 times the constant. Remember that the general form of a quadratic equation is what? Ax squared plus bx plus c. I will always say that this a is referred to what? The coefficient of this x squared, while b has a coefficient of what? The x, and then the c here refers to what? The constant. Therefore, in this case, minus 2 is our constant. Then x here is this x. Of course, the coefficient in this case is 1. Of course, that represents b, and in this case the coefficient is 1. That, of course, it's what? A. So, but I want you to know that the very first thing you ought to do is to use the coefficient of this x squared to multiply the constant. If I do so, this will be 1 times minus 2. You know, I'll be having minus 2. 1 times minus 2. The constant here is minus 2. Remember that whenever you have a variable or a number, the sign, whether plus or minus sign that is at the front of that number, belongs to that number. So here minus 2 belongs to what? This 2, which is why I say 1 times minus 2. Therefore the answer becomes what? Minus 2. You're not supposed to write it in the body of this one. Just put it by the side. You'll see the importance of that multiplication. Now, having done so, the next thing I will ask myself, what are the two numbers? Such that when I had the two numbers, I'm going to have the middle term. Remember, this is the first term, this is the second term, and this is the third term. So if you like, this is the middle term. Now I will ask myself, what are those two numbers that if I add them together, I will have what? The middle term. If I multiply them, I will have what? Minus 2. You think of those two numbers. If I take 1 and 2, for instance, 1 and 2. Now if I say 1 times 2, it will be what? The answer will be 2. But that 2 is not minus 2. Remember, I'm looking for two numbers such that when I multiply the two numbers, I should have minus 2. If I add the two numbers, I should have what? This x. Remember that the coefficient of this x is 1. So by the time I had the two numbers, I should have what? 1 here, where 1 is the coefficient of the middle term. So now in that case, what are you supposed to do? Look at, if we say 1 times 2, it will not give us minus 2. Rather, if I say minus 2, for instance, if I say minus 1, if I say minus 1 plus 2. Now, by the time I say minus 1 times minus 1 times 2, you see that the answer will be what? Minus 2. So you give them sign. After you've considered the numbers 1 and 2, the next thing is that you have to attach sign so that that sign will reflect here. By the time I say minus 1 times 2, you know that the answer will be minus 2. Now by the time I say minus 1 plus 2, you know that the answer will be what? Plus 1. Minus 1 plus 2, you know the answer will be what? 1. Remember that the coefficient of this x is 1. So that's to say that the two numbers in this case are what? Minus 1 and plus 2. Now I will come here and say this is equal to x squared. These two numbers, I'll put them here. Of course there is a plus sign here. I will retain my plus sign and then come here and say minus 1 plus 2. Those are the two numbers, and then close the bracket, put your x there. Remember that, why are you doing that? You're placing minus 1 plus 2 in front of this x, because by the time you say minus 1 plus 2, the answer will be 1. 1 times this x, it will still remain what? X. Then I will now write what? Minus 2. You have no business with this. This minus 2 here that I got by using this constant, this coefficient to multiply minus 2, and I got this. This is only trying to help you when you're thinking of two numbers. Remember, you have to think of two numbers such that once those two numbers are multiplied, you should have this value. If this value was minus 10, I will be looking for two numbers that if they are multiplied, I should have minus 10. So now, but then again, the second rule is, are those two numbers when added together, will that give you what? The middle term, the coefficient of the middle term? That's another thing you need to ask yourself. Now in this case, we have minus 1 and plus 2. You see how I've positioned them? I've positioned them before the middle term, such that when you say minus 1 plus 2, it becomes from 1 plus 1. And plus 1 times x, it will not change it from what? The plus x. Now having done so, I will now say this is equal to x squared. Now this x will times this. That of course will give us what? Minus x. This x will times that will give us plus 2x. And then minus 2. Look at what I have done. I have removed this bracket. I've removed the bracket. And after removing the bracket, how do I go about that? I will say what? Minus 1 times the x. And that will give us what? Minus x. I will say plus 2 times the x outside. That is plus 2x. And then minus 2. You bring down your minus 2 down. So with this, you can now say, do this. You know that we have now we have 4 terms. We have 4 terms. Now the first 2 terms, take them together, and the second 2 terms, take them together. Now what are you supposed to do at this point? What is common here? What is common here? There is x here, there is x here. It means x is common to this bracket. Therefore I will put x outside the bracket. No, x is common here, x is common here. That thing that is common, place it outside the bracket. And then you now ask yourself, if I have placed x outside, what do I have to place here such that if I multiply this x, I'll get what? X squared. For that reason, I'm going to put what? X here, such that this x, multiplying this x outside, I'm going to have x squared, and then minus what is supposed to be here, I will say 1. Why? Because x times minus 1, I will have what? Minus x. So the idea is that whatever that is contained in this bracket must be such that when you multiply it with what is outside, you should have what you had already initially. Now that is for this bracket. I will now look at the next bracket. What is common to this and this? You see that there is 2 here, there is 2 here. That means 2 is common to this bracket. How we place the 2 outside the bracket? And now what am I supposed to place here is x. And then here will be what? Minus 1. Because if I put it this way, that will now become 2 times this, that will be 2x. 2 times minus 1, that will give us minus 2. Now once you have done so, what next are you supposed to do? Look at the 2 brackets and you see if they are the same. You can see that this bracket is x minus 1, this bracket is x minus 1. That tells you that you are very right. Absolutely, you're right. And so once you see that the 2 brackets are the same, remember we were not looking at this bracket when we were also working on this other bracket. No, you work on this bracket separately and you work on this other one separately. At the end of the day, you now assess the 2. If the content of the 2 brackets is the same, then you are right. You are very correct. Now since this and this are the same, what are we supposed to do? We take one of the brackets, x minus 1, and then this one that is outside and this that is outside, we bring them together. We open another bracket, we place this one there, we place this one. Remember, this is a plus, we place that, and at the end you see that these are the factors. This another method. This one is just another method you can use to factorize any quadratic equation that is factorizable. Remember that not every quadratic equation that is factorizable. If you look at the quadratic equation, you notice that you cannot get 2 numbers. Remember, you look for 2 numbers such that when you add them together, you have the middle term, and when you multiply them, you get this. When you cannot get such 2 numbers, that means that expression cannot be factorized. It's not factorizable. So what you do is you rather apply formula method or completing the square method. Please, very important. And for such equation again, you cannot apply Remender's theorem as well. So it means that the disadvantage of Remender's theory or this method is that anytime you have an expression such that you may end up with what? A fraction. Suppose that I cannot use, if this was supposed to be x minus 1 all over 2, you cannot use this method to get factors that will end in what? Fraction. No. That's why we say this will only give you linear factors. So these are the 2 methods you can have this used to factorize this. Now the other method is the one we call formula method. Now let's discuss formula method or the formula method. The formula method entails you remembering the formula, and that formula is x equal to minus b plus minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over what? 2a. Now this is the formula, and now if you are to solve it, you have to compare this expression with, you have to compare this with the general form of a quadratic equation, and that general form of a quadratic equation is x equal to, is given as what? X squared, ax squared plus bx plus c. This is the general form of a quadratic equation, where a here is a coefficient of x squared, b is a coefficient of what? X, and this is the constant. Of course, this is equal to what? 0. We are saying that this expression is the same thing with this. Now what if you compare this with this? You notice that there is x squared here, there is x squared here, there is 1 here, there is an invisible 1. That 1 represents what? A. Therefore we say a is equal to 1. Now we come here, there is b here there is nothing, but there is of course there is an invisible 1 as well. So that 1 now that you do not see represent what? B. Therefore we say b is equal to 1, and then the c is equal to minus 2. So we've gotten the value of a, b and c by simply comparing this general form of a quadratic equation with the equation that is given to you. At the end, you got what? A equal to 1, b equal to 1, and c equal to minus 2. Now you have to substitute this value in this formula. I will now say substituting a equal to 1, b equal to 1, and c equal to minus 2. in x equal to minus b plus minus the square root of b square minus 4ac all over what 2a. You substitute and that will be equal to minus the b, the value of b is 1. You say minus 1 plus minus the square root of b is 1, and because the formula says b is raised to power 2, therefore this one has to be raised to power 2 minus, now we're going to have here 4 times a is 1 times c is minus 2 all over what 2 times the value of a is 1, and this is equal to minus 1 plus minus the square root of 1 times 1 will be 1, 4 times a, of course this is 4, this is minus 8, minus 8 times this will give us plus 8 all over what 2, and this will be equal to minus 1 plus minus the square root of what 9, where 1 plus 8 is 9, then all over what 2. This will be equal to minus 1 plus minus the square root of what 9 is 3, then all over what 2. Now we're going to have x equal to, remember all of this is equal to x will be equal to minus 1 plus 3 all over 2. Okay, what I've done, we take first minus 1, we take one of the sign here plus, a plus sign plus 3 all over 2, or minus 1 minus 3 all over 2. And this will give us, of course this and this will give minus 1 plus 3, that will be 2 all over 2, and this will cancel, the answer will be what? 1. We come here, minus 1 minus 3, that will give us minus 4, and that will be all over 2. If you divide, the answer is equal to minus 2. Therefore, we've gotten what? X equal to 1 and then x equal to minus 2. Remember, the examiner did not ask for these values. The examiner says factorize. It therefore means we will have to look for the factors. We will have to transfer 1 to the left hand side. If I do so, this becomes what? X. As 1 goes to the left hand side of x, that will become what? Minus 1, x minus 1. This is a factor. Then I take this one, minus 2, transfer to the left hand side, become what? X plus 2. You can see these are now the factors. And these factors are the same as the one we got when we use the method of what? Factorization. So I want to believe you have understanding. If you don't, or if you have any question, please go to the comment section, drop all your questions there, your comment. I will react to them. Again, if you're, like I said, if you're new to this channel, please hit the subscription button, turn on your notification bell. Also like this video and share if you find value. Thank you.